Pablo Escobar is without a doubt one of the world's most infamous, terrible, horrifying criminals. But this is the bizarre story of his Rolex. Let's do it. What is up, Watch fam? Happy Friday, and welcome to Liquor On. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and this is my old man,
Rolly.
And today, we're going to be drinking a little bit of some bootleg limoncello.
Limoncello.
And I want to talk about this crazy story. As much as we love watches, we love the stories behind watches. And many stories are very weird and important, and a lot of questions behind them. And this is the story of Pablo Escobar's Rolex. So let's pour a drink and let's get into it.
Bizarre. We're not having wine today. We're gonna have a little limoncello.
A little limon. Well, it's Sunday. It's a little early.
It's Sunday.
We'll jump into wine a little later.
Okay.
But for right now,
yeah,
some bootleg.
Some salute.
It is good.
Homemade.
Yeah. Wow. Geez, you really local.
Local.
It is tasty. My grandfather makes it every year, and gives it out to family and close friends.
Yep, it's delicious.
So although well, he doesn't sell it, so it's not illegal.
It's not sold.
It's not sold.
It's not a bootlegger
or labeled. But if he did, he would be a criminal, like our friend here, not our friend, but like the topic of conversation here, Mr. Pablo Escobar, who you look a little bit like. And he put up a photo of Rolly as like this kid could have grown up into this guy as far as looks.
I don't understand. I don't see it, but
he doesn't see it. But we posted it on Instagram last night, and everyone was like, "Holy shit, you're right." Plato o plomo.
Plato o plomo.
Rolly's Pablo Escobar. Okay. Let's get real quick about Pablo Escobar. He's a Colombian drug lord and quote-unquote narco-terrorist. They called him the king of cocaine. He's said to have smuggled 80% of the cocaine in the United States through his cartel, the Medellin cartel, turning over $20 billion per year in his own personal income. They say that today he would be worth like $100 billion with inflation. I heard he used to spend over $1,000 a week in rubber bands to bind his money. From 1975 until 1993, his cartel smuggled drugs into the U.S. We're talking about 70 to 80 tons monthly. Believe it or not, he was actually elected to the Colombian Chamber of Representatives, but when Colombia became this, murder capital of the world, he was naturally and rightfully vilified by both American and Colombian governments. In 93, he was shot and killed by Colombian National Police. So that's who Pablo Escobar is.
Yep.
Right? One of the world's most horrific, criminals. But we're not here to just talk about Pablo Escobar, but rather his watch. Because back in 2013, which really isn't very long ago, by 2013, the watch craze existed. Yes. This was not like an unknown hobby. His watch, his Rolex Day-Date, which was encrusted in diamonds, a very ugly thing, as you can see here, sold for, while it was estimated $70,000, it sold for $8,500. Right? Which is actually less money, I think, than the watch is even worth if it wasn't Pablo's. A double quickset Day-Date with diamonds is probably worth $10,000 or $13,000, maybe more. So it seems to me that because it was Pablo Escobar's, it's worth less, or it was sold for less.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting statistic when you consider, right, that other criminal figures whose personal effects have been auctioned off.
Bonnie and Clyde,
right?
Yep. Clyde Barrow's guns have been auctioned. Bonnie Barrow, I don't know, they were married. Her ring was sold, I think, at one point for like $25,000. Al Capone, famous Chicago bootlegger and boss in Chicago, his pocket watch, which basically is probably intrinsically worthless, probably maybe worth a couple $100, maybe $1,000, sold with a signature on a piece of paper with a music sheet for $103,000. Right. So we're talking about a $100,000 premium because it was Al Capone.
It belonged, right?
As opposed to a $4,000 depreciation because it's Pablo Escobar. Now, I'm kind of in the camp, and I've gone on record here even with Nazi memorabilia, that it's kind of weird to own something that is so directly linked to so much bloodshed. It's a little weird.
Yes.
Right? Especially when, the items were of the opposing side. You know what I mean? But it's kind of eerie. That said, it's impossible to deny the world, specifically America's fascination with collecting criminals' memorabilia.
Right.
And Pablo Escobar is one of the most famous criminals ever.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's interesting about this. And I didn't know the fact that this watch actually sold for $8,500. That's an interesting phenomenon. One that I don't necessarily know that I have a good explanation for. Yeah. You know, nor do I have a good, you know, position to stand on. Once again, because you consider Capone also
murdered many
people in Chicago, and you know, he was the kingpin there, right? Yeah. He ruled that town for many years. And yet there's that allure. Yeah. I think that there's the allure with Escobar, but maybe the wounds are still a little bit fresh. I don't know, and it's possible that could be why it's such recent history for us that it's something that it's still very much taboo. So the other thing we may want to consider too is that, where was this watch auctioned off? Was it done here in the United States?
It was in Bogota.
Okay, so that probably has what it should have a lot to do with it. Yeah. Intrinsically.
Yeah.
Because
we're talking about history. You died in 93.
Lived, yeah. I mean, you could not walk the streets in Medellin, in Bogota, Cali. I mean, people were being slaughtered.
And really, although Escobar died in 93, you know, Colombia still, probably till this day, and certainly past 93, still suffered at the hand of narcos.
Yes.
Right? So it wasn't like, oh, that was old history, bootlegging, come on, Al Capone, we all drink booze. No. You know, when you trivialize the damage that was done. I mean, you're talking about people who are alive today, many people, their uncles, mothers, fathers were killed by the hand of narcos. Right. So it actually does make sense, I suppose, now that I'm looking at it. You're right, it's salt in the wound, I think.
Yeah.
And the man who bought it, as Anna pointed out in research, said, listen, I'm not a you know, collector of these things. This is for an investment. I'll melt it if I have to. I don't care whose it is. I just saw something I can make money on and move on.
And especially when you consider, you know, you look at the style of the watch, it's something that you see quite commonly today. It's not so out of place.
No.
As gaudy as we see this watch, it has an appeal factor. Yeah. You know, for you know, certain celebrities and things.
I can see it. Yeah, I can definitely see it. So that's the weird story of Pablo Escobar's Rolex, and I didn't have the answer to why until you brought it up. I think that you're absolutely right. The watch is still almost too much of a ticking insult to the people that died at his hand.
Yeah,
that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on. Your insights are brilliant.
You got it.
You still do look a little bit like Pablo Escobar, and that's it. Salud.